Welcome again to this special edition of the League of the Genuine Conversations with Fred Muwema. I am handling this segment of counterfeits in food or food fraud for the next couple of weeks. When I was coming into this show, one of the staff asked me, why don't we start with medicine? Why are we dealing with food? Medicines are killing people. I told him, as I'll tell you now, that food is actually medicine. We need to eat wholesome food, genuine food, quality food, safe food as a basis for good health. So the question of contamination in food is as important as contamination in medicine or anything else. So since we are in a festive season, we are preparing to do shopping, we are preparing to look after our families and the loved ones. Let us not be agents that harm our families, our loved ones, because we unknowingly buy fake food during the festive season. So our appeal will be, say no to fake food during this festive season, say no to fake food even after the festive season. So for this episode, we have a special guest, once again, from our partners, the Uganda National Farmers Federation, with whom we signed a partnership last week. And this week, we shall be talking about pesticides, fake pesticides. How do they affect the food that you eat? So it's a good idea that you stay with us and get to know what you need to do, what you need to avoid with regard to pesticide. So I would like to welcome my special guest, Mr. Perez Kaumi. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Mr. Kaumi, you are from the National Farmers Federation. Do you mind telling the viewers who you are and what you do in the Federation?
Great. Our viewers, I'm happy to be with you, and I'm happy to be with Mr. Muwema. I am happy, really. Thank you for hosting me, and thank you for signing that MOU with the Federation. We are happy that at last we are with a partner who is going to help us amplify that voice about counterfeits to the farmers. Dear viewers, my name is Perez Kaumi. I work with the Uganda National Farmers Federation, and I am in charge of the training and the advisory services to the farmers.
Did you say training?
Training, yes.
So you train farmers?
I do train farmers.
So these farmers who are spraying mango zeb on the tomatoes after they have harvested, that grayish thing,
yes.
You're the one training them to do that? Because it's rampant. and maybe please talk about it as
That's
we start.
right. Maybe as I start what I wanted to talk about today, let me just have a talk about that. It is a bad idea and a very bad activity for us to spray tomatoes when we have harvested them. Every pesticide we use on any food crop have what we call a pre-harvest period. So that pre-harvest period.
What is that?
Meaning that if you spray this pesticide to the product, there are a certain number of days that you must take before you harvest, with the assumption that this particular pesticide will now have dissolved and become less harmful to the consumer. But when you spray after harvesting, it means you are just poisoning the consumer. And that could be one of the reasons why you see rampant diseases, cancers, and so on.
Let's just stay there for a minute.
Yeah.
You're talking of the tomato,
Yeah.
the spray. This pesticide, can you tell, how does it look like on the tomato?
The particular pesticide that
Does
they
it have a
usually
color?
use, yes, it is yellowish, pale yellow, or white. And when they dissolve in water and it sprays on the tomatoes, it becomes like a flour, like a chalk, like what? Even when you handle it, It comes with your fingers.
So what you're saying is that we watch out for these tomatoes that have a grayish chalk-like look.
Exactly.
If we find them in the market or the
Exactly.
supermarket, those have been sprayed with a pesticide.
Those have been sprayed on the pesticide, and it is not good to consume those. It is not good. Even when you are purchasing, be strict to the vendor, whoever is selling the tomatoes to you. Tell her, I'm not buying this because it is sprayed with a lot of pesticides. If we are very cautious as the consumers, then those vendors or the farmers or whoever is doing that bad activity
must stop.
We'll stop it.
So basically, for all you viewers out there, you're going into the market, it's weekend, you're going to buy tomatoes. Perez here is telling you that there are some tomatoes that are sprayed with a pesticide, and
Yes.
if you take it, it's going to harm you. But now you're in charge of training
Yes.
and advisory.
Yes.
So you train and advise.
Mm.
This problem of post-harvest spraying of pesticides on our vegetables, is it something you've trained about? Can you tell us, has it increased, has it reduced?
The farmers or the producers who have known and who have the concept of food poisoning and who have the concept of post-harvest handling are struggling. But what is important is, where are our food standards? When we go to the market, what is it that we look for? What is it that we look at before we purchase any product? Just take any product. Do we take that care and say, is there consumer awareness? Do consumers know what to buy? Do consumers know what to eat and what not to eat? Do consumers know what is effective and what is not? What is dangerous to
But
their
do
life
consumers
and not?
know the food standards? You've just said food standards. Maybe you keep them in the federation in your drawer. Can you tell us what are the food standards that we have to observe?
Surely that is a little bit a big topic for
Okay, tell us 2 or 3 standards if you know.
For example, I shouldn't buy any product which is not well packaged. That is one standard. If a product is not well packaged, that means that there is a lot of concern for contamination. I should buy a product which is cleaned. Why should you buy a product that comes from the field direct without cleaning, without grading, without separating the rotten ones from the unrotten ones?
Without the soil
Without
from the garden.
soil and so on. So we should reach that situation where we look at a uniform product. For example, if we take tomatoes as an example, am I buying same size of tomatoes, same color of tomatoes?
Standardization.
You know, that kind of standardization. We should stop this business of nyongezako. Whereas the nyongeza, I buy the nyongeza. No, because the vendor will automatically have the good tomatoes, then give you.
So
one.
nyongeza is the bad one usually?
Nyongeza usually is the bad one. So don't they accept such. So let us know what you want to consume, the standard of the product that you want to buy, and see if it measures with what you want. As long as it doesn't measure with what you want, then you know you are already causing damage to yourself.
But I can now
and
see
life.
the problem is beyond the federation.
Yes.
Because when you're talking of standards, we have the Uganda National Bureau of
Standards.
Standards. Uganda National Bureau of Standards. Where are you? Can you please, at least during this festive season, can you publish the food standards that we have got to observe? Can we be aware? I think we should invite them here to do more explanation.
But right.
Now we are dealing with pesticides.
Yeah.
I noticed that a pesticide is supposed to kill a pest.
Yes.
Which is, let's say, on a plant.
Yes.
But that pesticide can as well kill or harm or injure the human being who is supposed to eat that plant. From your experience, can you tell us some of those health dangers or effects of pesticides on human health that our viewers should know?
Thank you very much. It is us to understand that anything called a pesticide, it has an effect on human life. It has an effect on human health. Anything that has the ability to kill an organism, a living organism,
thing can kill you.
Can kill you too.
So why don't we avoid them?
Even, just take this example, that even the aspirin you swallow to cure your headache can also kill you if used poorly. So anything that has a medicinal effect, either on living organisms, on human beings, must also be used in a correct way. So pesticides, much as they are intended to kill the pests, to stop destroying the plant. But if used poorly, the way we do out there, they are also becoming harmful to us as human beings, but they also become harmful to the environment. They become harmful to the water bodies. They become harmful to even other beneficial insects and beneficial living organisms. So the best way to manage pests, the best way to manage pesticides, the best way to manage our life is to be cautious when you are using these products. So that is why it is important for us to understand that one, if you don't use the correct pesticide, if you don't use the normal mixing ratios, if you don't use if you don't target the normal organism, you are likely to cause harm than good. So it is important you understand what you are targeting.
You follow the directions on the label,
yes,
on the pesticide that you're going to use. Yes. Mr. Perez, you live here in Uganda. You've been hearing stories. So and so has died. It was poisoning. So and so was poisoned. But don't you think that we ourselves are poisoning ourselves through this contaminated food? Don't you actually see an increase in food poisoning? Could it be these pesticides?
I think as farmers, we have done a great deal in poisoning ourselves and in poisoning the environment where we live, but also poisoning the products that we are using to eat and to feed ourselves. And how are we doing this? One of the issues that we have discussed and discovered is the way we use fake pesticides, the way we use fake inputs on our products, just because we don't have sufficient information on what a fake product is. We continue using it poorly, we continue purchasing wrong ones, we continue. All of those issues that lead to fakeness is one way that we are poisoning ourselves. So in my discussion, I would love a lot to inform the farmers what is all about this fake product, what we shouldn't do, what we should do, how should we identify it, how do we prevent ourselves from poisoning ourselves, poisoning our colleagues, poisoning the environment, and so on. So I would like to throw some light on what we are doing to poison ourselves as farmers.
And you, because you're older than me, I mean, people of my age and your age, we didn't have so many cases of bacterial infection. These days, I'm sure you have children. I've got a bacterial infection. This should all be a function of the poisoning that is coming through the food that we are eating. Wouldn't you agree? Because it's so rampant. Every other minute, you have to go for a drip, bacterial infection, they are poisoning. Was this common in the last years?
When I go to the hospital these days, There is a disease which I have failed also to understand. They tell you infection. Infection.
Bacterial infection. Viral infection.
What is that infection which is not really identified? During our days, they would tell you malaria. They would tell you either typhoid, malaria, or what. But these days, it is infection, and you begin wondering, what is this infection? What is this infection? But I agree with you. Yes, there could be a number of reasons why such new diseases are coming, not infections alone. You could see increased cancers, you could see a lot of increased
Actually, talking about
problems.
cancers, I got information that one of the foodborne diseases that is ravaging the whole world is actually leukemia, blood cancer, and the other forms of cancer, including the respiratory diseases that come from exposure to high levels of pesticides. So there is no doubt that on the health side, pesticides are doing more harm than good. And the information here is that you who is viewing, you must know that if you are the head of a home, you are a father, you go and buy food that you do not care to see whether it is safe, meets the food standards, you're actually poisoning your family or your loved ones. If you are a mother and your husband has brought the food and you're preparing a meal, most of these pesticides, maybe you comment on it. If you cook, from your experience or from your knowledge, if you cook, does the pesticide die, if that is a correct expression? Are you safe when you cook?
Of course, when a product is infected, whether you cook it or not, there is a level of infection. I wouldn't love to go too much into that. That is the science of the food chemist or whoever is concerned with that. But I would love to concentrate much more in the field. What happens? How do we prevent ourselves from that infection when we are still in the field? How do we present good food stuff to the consumer, to the buyer? For us as farmers, what is it that we should do when we are in the field to make sure that the person who is going to get good food? So that pushes me to a counterfeit product. The pesticide, what is it, a counterfeit pesticide? Do viewers know when we talk of counterfeit pesticides? Probably it is us to understand that when we say it is counterfeit, it is not meeting some standards. Maybe chemically it is not meeting some standards. The chemical content may not be correct. Maybe it is already expired. Maybe it is already diluted. Maybe it is not properly stored. So,
or the name,
or the name
is copying
not,
somebody's name.
Something, maybe it is just similar to something. So a counterfeit would simply mean that that particular product has not measured to the standards of the real product, how it should look like. Maybe the color has changed, maybe a lot of other issues, maybe even the container itself. The container talks of something else, the label talks of something else, but the contents are different. So once that product is not measuring to the expected standards, then we say this is a counterfeit. There is some level of not attaining the desired standards. And there are just a few things, not very many, that farmers must put into consideration. One, are you aware of how the original product should look like? Because if you are not aware that this is how an original product looks like, then you cannot tell me if it is a counterfeit or not. So as a farmer, as a user, as a consumer, you must be aware that if I want a product A, this is how it looks like in color or smell or the packaging should look like this, it should have this kind of writings, and so on. So are we really concerned about this? Do we know? If we don't know, then you know there is a problem.
But Perez, what you're talking is really is really tough on a consumer, because the consumer is basically groping in the dark. They do not have the means of knowing and differentiating. I am sure you eat salads,
Yes.
vegetables, it's healthy. But I know for a fact that a lot of the salads we eat
Yes,
have got some very dangerous bacteria,
that's right.
E. coli and so on. So when the farmers spray, usually they spray on the leaves on top,
Yes.
and some of that bacteria hides down.
Yes.
And I know that a lot of food poisoning actually originates from these raw vegetables
That's
that we
right.
are told to eat. The World Health Organization says that every day, at least 1 out of 10 people get food poisoning. And about 500,000 of them die every year. Now, so how do you tell this consumer it's a festive period, they are going to cut their salads, the tomatoes and so on? You're leaving them with no option. Should they get off the salads? What do we do?
This is why I indicated that really you must know what kind of product you need, you as a consumer. Even when you are going to eat, let's say, a raw mango, you are going to eat a raw tomato or something.
So the source, first of all.
Yes,
So should we, like, for example, if you go to a supermarket,
yes,
you like inquire where are these tomatoes from, who is your supplier? If you go to Nalongo in the stall, in the market, roadside.
before I ask Nalong on the roadside who has supplied her, I must see that Nalongo has displayed the correct product.
Okay.
If I don't know what I want to consume or to buy from Nalongo, then there is already a problem. Because once Nalongo has a wrong product, and as the consumers we say, no, we are not buying from you Nalongo because of ABCDE, Nalongo will not go back to that supplier to get the wrong product. But once we just buy whatever Nalongo brings on the roadside, then Nalongo will continue even buying whatever comes out. So that is still remains a little bit challenging.
So I think as the federation, since we have a partnership,
Yeah.
probably you must catalog the different foods that you feel have a lot of pesticides in their production, and then you tell us the different things to look out for, so that we know. Because food is very sensitive area, and nobody can do without food.
Yeah, that is partially, our work is to amplify the voice. But then when you look at Uganda National Bureau of Standards, they are supposed to categorically tell us if you are to consume a tomato, these are the standards of a consumable tomato. If you are to consume an animal product, these are the standards. Basically, each food stuff we have must have standards. Must have standards. So it is those standards that will help us, the federation, to amplify for the producers to know if I am buying this, these are the standards. And then it would be now our work to inform the producer how to attain the standards.
Okay, so in summary, can you give us the guidelines on buying or finding the genuine pesticide? Seeing as pesticides are not only used on foodstuffs.
Yes.
So many people buy pesticides
Yes.
for home use in the gardens, the flowers,
Yes, that's
even at home, the wood preservatives, so that certain pests don't eat up the wood. How do I find the genuine pesticide?
in a short stint, one, know what you want to use. Knowledge of the pesticide
Product
that
knowledge.
I want to use, that is the most important. Two, know where to get it from. because you cannot depend on hawkers to sell you pesticides.
There are some they sell on the street.
That is forbidden and strictly don't do it.
Rat poison, those things on there.
Don't. Please go to genuine suppliers. They are there, Bukola Limited and others, Nsanja and company. They are good suppliers. Know where to buy from. And when you are buying, make sure that the product is well packaged. Look at the container of the product. Is it damaged or not? We cannot buy a damaged product.
Does it have expiry date, batch number?
Look at the expiry date. The expiry date is usually three years from the date of manufacture. It may not exceed 3 years in most products. So what some people do, they change the manufacture date, or they change the expiry date and forget to change the manufacture date. So you find the product over 5 years. Have some caution on that.
What about price?
Also make
price
sure,
an indicator?
Yes, price is an indicator. Usually don't over accept products with very small prices, very little prices. Usually they are after something. So know the price range and make sure that you are within that price range. But also most important, ask for a receipt. How many of you buy products and you ask for receipts?
But
Genuine
if I'm buying
receipts.
tomatoes, I don't know, you can get a receipt?
You can know the person you are buying from, at least. And know who is it that I have to buy from. What are those particular, like I mentioned about the standards. Know the product that I want to buy, and so on. Basically, look at those particular issues. The expiry date, the product name. Know which particular product name, and learn how to read the labels. Because when you don't read the labels before you purchase, you are likely to buy fake products. So ensure that you have some concentration on the labels as you buy. Know some active ingredients. Maybe a local farmer may not know the active ingredient. The active ingredient is that poisonous part of the product that is going to kill the pest. But then know which pest you want to fight. Because if you don't know the pest you want to kill, then you cannot buy the product that will fight that pest.
Now, Mr. Kahumi,
Yes, sir.
training and advisory.
Yeah.
What message do you have to the counterfeiters? Or maybe, have you ever seen a counterfeit? Have you ever trained one to, to change, behavior change? What message do you have to the counterfeiters? Those who are either selling the fake pesticides or misusing them, applying them after harvest. Don't you have a message for the counterfeiters?
Yes, I have a message. Maybe some people even sell counterfeits without their knowledge. They don't know that they are selling counterfeits. But one important message to the people dealing in pesticides, in order to avoid poisoning us as consumers and poisoning the food, just make sure that you buy your products from genuine input dealers. Make sure that even the products you buy is fully registered in this country. You find, Mr. Muwema, that there are many people who are dealing in inputs, pesticides, but you find a whole stock, none of the products is registered in the country. So why do we use unregistered products in the country when we have a whole directorate responsible for product registration? So make sure you have a registered product in the country. That product should have a registration number that begins with UGC.
UGC standing for?
That is the Ugandan code. Then it is followed by the year of registration, either 2016, 2020, like that.
Who is the registering body for those chemicals?
My list is there.
Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes.
I think that is the Agricultural Chemical Control Board.
Yeah, it is part of
the ministry.
Yeah. So once the product is not registered in this country, then
avoid.
refrain from
So,
using
but
it.
as we close, these pesticides, do they also affect animals, or they are just used on plants?
Pesticides is...
And pest, is a tick a pest?
A tick is a parasite in our classification, but it is, when we talk of pesticides, it is a general term that encompasses all. There could be bactericides, there could be fungicides, there could be herbicides, but then a pesticide is a general term. So even animals, they are affected. Even crops, they are affected. Human beings.
What pesticide affects animals that you know?
For example, if you use a pesticide that is going to kill a weed, or that is going to kill a grass, and you don't respect the pre-harvest period, then the animal is going to be affected. Then the animal
eats the grass?
It will be affected.
And the pesticide stays in it?
That's right. So the number of pesticides that would be recommendable, but then I encourage all farmers, all producers to make sure that you consult your technical people. You consult the extension advisors who are located within your sub-counties, wherever you are located, to make sure that they give you sufficient advice on what type of pesticide to use before you use it.
Whereas most of the pesticides are packed in containers.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about the disposal of these containers after you've removed the pesticide? Is that a major concern?
Yes, it is a major concern. As users, as farmers, make sure that a pesticide container is not reused for any other purpose. We have seen very many people, after removing the pesticide, you wash and you go to collect milk, you put sugar, you put what?
Salt in the kitchen.
Please avoid that. Have a disposal place on your farm that after using the pesticide, even pinch where possible. Don't burn, but just punch it, just to make sure that
it's not
somebody
reusable.
else is not going to use it. And have a particular place, well fenced, where you can always dispose your containers.
Perez, you at the Federation, I think you've been there for a long time.
Yes.
I read about a program that you had called CACASA.
Yes.
Can you tell the viewers what it was? Is the program still going on? Was it successful? Did it fail?
CACASA was actually a code name of a program that we developed together with the support from USAID's Ag Inputs activity. USAID's program, the Ag Inputs activity closed. Ag, yeah.
Standing for agriculture.
Standing for agriculture. It closed, but its intention
When was this program?
It was 4 years ago in 2016. Yeah, its intention was to make sure that the buyer, the consumer, buys a genuine product. So the name CACASA was like a confirm.
CACASA in Luganda, confirm.
CACASA, just to confirm that the product you are buying is genuine. So it was a code that you had to scratch. It was put on the product you are buying. You scratch, you feed into the phone.
It revealed the number?
You scratch to reveal the number. It is that number that you would feed into the phone to call. Once you called that number, it would give you information that the product name, date of manufacture, the quantity, even like that. Unfortunately, very few dealers, very few manufacturers used it or supported it, and on specific products. For example, Bukola Limited, they used it specifically on Weedmaster, and it was very effective. But after the ending of that funding, we did not.
But why would I read a report where the Uganda Agro Input Association. I think they have an association. They were complaining that selling of fake pesticides has cost them more than 15 billion shillings a few years ago. Why wouldn't they have supported such a program? It would help their market share.
Agro Input Dealers Association are actually our members, and we did this program together with them.
So why did they not support something that helps their bottom line?
I think the underlying issue, you know, this Kakasa program, the Kakasa issue, it had a cost implication to the manufacturer. And then I think there was lack of particular legislation about it. So enforcing it became a problem because even to the input dealers, you would find somebody dealing in products with Kakasa, but also dealing in products without Kakasa. You would find one company like Bukola having products with Kakasa and also having products without Kakasa. So there was kind of failure to legislate. We didn't get serious support from government, and once the government has not fully supported on a particular issue, somehow when the funding stops and the compliance is
then
low,
you get issues.
Then you
Here on the League of the Genuine, we are running call to promote genuine and fight counterfeits. Is Dankani. It's an acronym. Dankani. The I at the end stands for ineffective cooperation between different stakeholders. And I can see Kakasa failed because there was basically ineffective cooperation.
That's right.
This one regulatory body, one agency, one brand is not talking to each other. That's why we have put this platform so that everybody can come on the platform, share information, share intelligence, so that we can be able to tackle the problem. So in conclusion, again, training and advisory. I know I asked you what is the message to the counterfeiters. For us, I think you'll agree with me that counterfeiters are also consumers. They also have children. They also fall sick. I think also counterfeiters get food poisoning. I don't know that there is a market for counterfeiters alone to buy. If you're selling a fake pesticide, do you go to a different market? You don't. You go to the same market like Perez and also buy the same stuff. So I think, why don't we together have a message out to the counterfeiters to say, you are part of us. Instead of stigmatizing them, you are part of us. You are part of the problem and you are part of the solution. You are a human being. Can we do this together? Because if you're selling a fake pesticide, you need genuine medicine.
That's right.
Even when you're transporting the fake pesticide to the market, you need to reach safely. If the brakes are fake and you die,
that's right.
Do you benefit?
You will also have died.
How can we do something around that to change the way we approach?
I think when you look at the way we had designed it together with you said, our campaign against counterfeits, it was bringing all stakeholders together. Because once you leave one segment of the stakeholders, you may have missed it. Bring the farmers on board, bring the leaders on board, bring the law enforcers on board, bring the input dealers on board. You know, look at the value chains and know who does what where. Because any particular segment within the value chain, once you are brought on board, and you understand that this one does not affect us alone, because we need to understand that the more we use counterfeits, it ends up in the food that we consume. And once we know that the segment, by the time the food reaches the table, it has passed through all those other nodes or segments of the value chain. So know who is the actor in a particular segment, bring all of them on board. Let us know the problem. Let us formulate the solution together. For example, if there is a policy and there is a law, do the policemen know all the other law enforcers?
Are they involved? Yes.
Are they involved? Do they even bother? Do they know that when a farmer uses the fake product, it will end in the food they are going to eat? Do they know that the lawyers, are they aware? Can they support the farmer?
Some lawyers are defending the counterfeiters.
Exactly.
And ensuring that the product is released again.
Exactly. So can we all know as the major consumers, because the problem ends up with the consumer, and once we know that the consumer is in a position to fight for his rights, then everybody
then
will
it
be
becomes
involved.
easier. The good thing, Perez, as we close,
Yeah.
there is hope. If Kakasa failed in the past because there wasn't proper coordination, we now have a platform, the League of the Genuine, for proper coordination.
That's right.
This league brings a lot of strength, legal enforcement, legal knowledge, regulation, communication.
That's right.
So I think that if we continue to work closely together, we should be able to make a contribution to make this a safe place to stay in, safe place with safe food.
That's right.
Because anybody out there, I met somebody from the tourism sector one time, and they were saying, you know, we are going to build hotels, let the tourists come. And my question was, what food will they eat? Is the food safe? So you'll see that food is a component in the development of all the other sectors.
That's right.
Hospitality and tourism, for example.
That's right.
So I think that is it for today, unless you have a parting note to the viewers.
No, I just wanted to thank the viewers and all those who were tuned in to this program. We appeal to the consumers to know what they want to eat. We appeal to the farmers to know the products they want to use, because it ends up in the food we eat, and it also affects your health. So we appeal to the general public, please fight against counterfeits. Don't reuse or repack the containers for another purpose, and please make sure that you request for receipts whenever you are going to buy, and genuine receipts, and avoid buying inputs and chemicals from hawkers.
You have a right to access and eat safe food. You have a right to ask your shopkeeper, your distributor, is the food safe? What pesticides were used? You have a right to seek information about the packaging, if it's packaged food. Basically, you have a right to life. Counterfeits in pesticides and other agro inputs are affecting you, and we are in a festive season. It should not be a time to make merry and eat fake food or poisonous food. We need to have safe food. I will leave by asking each one of you to say no to fake food during this festive season and even after the festive season. So stay safe. Until next week.